Sorry, gotta shut that down before I can start saying my ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies and gents. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been watching an episode of Remington Steele. No, not Remington Steele. Reading Remington. Oh, you guys remember Remington Steele? Yeah, Rating Remington. Apparently, when they do movies, it's just a remake of a remake of a remake, which doesn't make any sense. And so, because it's a remake of a remake of a remake, which doesn't make any sense, I was watching the Reading Remington story, and it's called Blacklist. And there is a character in this story. Her name is Agent Hababi. And Agent Hababi was in an episode to where she was trapped underwater and was without oxygen for several minutes. I think in the show she's out without oxygen for 6 minutes. That was about 4 episodes ago. And so they've been showing her having some difficulty. Well, I started noticing some similarities in the so-called symptoms that she was mimicking to go with her apoxia diagnosis. And it wasn't until this episode that I find out that they hit it on the nail right smack on the top of its head to where it just like white meat and blood all over the place. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell is I thought my situation was unique. I did not believe that there were too many other people who would understand. You see, I would explain to the doctors that I was constantly hearing a ringing sound, not a ringing as a doorbell, but a high pitched sound. Just very, very high pitched, very, very faint, but I could hear it. And there would be some times to where there would be not like she is, because you can't explain it to someone else. So the movie tries to get close, but it ain't nowhere near close, okay? But they tried. And the symptoms are very, very similar to what you were seeing in that episode today, the one that came on last evening, episode number 12 of this season. This was my experience right after the operation and for several years after. You couldn't pick the time when it would happen or when it would occur. It would, I would definitely say it would either occur when I am short of breath, and I'm short of breath all the time. So it occurs all the time? No, it ain't occurring all the time. Just shut up and let me tell my story. Well, you said when you get short of breath and you know why you getting mad at me because you sit up here and you said it and I was just sitting up here trying to agree, but you don't want nobody to agree with you because okay, you just go right ahead and you tell your little stupid story. Fine. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm only doing this to say to some of you who don't get it that despite having to deal with so many people who lack the sense that ain't even common. These are the people who take offense to everything. You can tell them that they look nice today and they'll take offense to it. You can tell them that their hair looks nice, their shoes look nice, and they'll take offense to it. YouTubers is what I should have said. I apologize. Yes, having to deal with those individuals makes it kind of difficult. I cut the comments off on my videos and I've helped SATCOM out with a couple of videos, and we left the comments open on SATCOM, but now we got to put somebody in to monitor that because people are trying to leave comments for me on SATCOM. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just not going to happen. I will tell SATCOM that I will continue to help them, but will disable the comments on SATCOM. You don't get to communicate with me that way. Don't allow it. I don't care if it makes you not happy. I don't care if it makes you dissatisfied. I don't care if it makes you angry. As I told you, I don't have time. Yes, 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 I know you got problems. Yes, 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 I know you got your own issues. Yes, 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 I know you got this going on and that going on, and you want somebody to hear you, and you want somebody to know, and you want somebody to answer your questions, and you want somebody to feel where you're coming from, and I don't care. Nah, just kidding. I do care, but I just don't have the time. I simply just do not have the time. There's too many people, and in order for me to focus on your problem means I have to not focus on the people who I promised I would give them my focus. And so right now my focus is where it needs to be. I am putting together a letter for Bank of America because they need to have their attention got. I'm putting together a letter for, what's the name of the other stupid company? US Bank, because they need to have their attention got. Those of you who have arbitrations and you have arbitration awards, do your research on arbitration. Whatever award the arbitrator gives, that award is binding on both parties. The Federal Arbitration Act makes that clear. Now, if you want to enforce the award, then the law, Federal Arbitration Act, says that you need to get a confirmation of the award. So let's say you're afraid, you don't know how to get a confirmation, and you just don't know where to go. Ladies and gentlemen, then you need to understand your contract has value. The arbitrator's award gives the value to your contract. So go after it as if it's a debt. Become a debt collector for your own contract. SATCOM, SITCOM will eventually, sometime in 2020, start buying individuals' contracts who have legitimate arbitration awards. And yes, we will be selective. We will pick and choose. And it won't be we'll pick and choose the best ones. No, we'll pick and choose the people who follow procedure. We'll pick and choose those people. And we will uh, make an offer to them for the purchase of their contract, especially those who may not be able to secure the monies for the contract. Again, we'll make an offer, not going to pay you full price. Sorry, you must be out of your mind if you think that's going to happen. If you think that's going to happen, there ain't no need of you trying to collect the debt. If you can come to us and we pay, no, ain't going to be like that. Okay? But the method to the madness is there. So that all of you know that having to deal with the side effects of the operation and side effects of this disease, it is not easy. Day to day is not easy. Trying to maintain is not easy. And I'm in a current situation right now where I feel that I'm a burden on the people around me. And so I'm getting ready to unburden myself and them in more ways than one.
Are you getting ready to take your life or something? You sound like you're getting ready to, just X nix and dick.
I told you I loves did myself, and I's loved it myself so much that I could never take my life, because if I took my life, let me tell you, that would be taking away something great from society. And you know you can't get rid of something great, 'cause something great's always got to remain around. So I ain't going nowhere. It's just the energy is not there for me to continue to help so many people. So that's why, if you've noticed, I took the time last year, couldn't do the research of the arbitration and do the videos. So that's why you heard me talking about a hiatus in the last video I was doing, so that I could focus on that. Once I had my arbitration sent out, man, all I needed to do was to have the first default. Once that first default came in, y'all saw the videos coming back up left and right, and 5 and 6 and 10 and 11 and 900 and that day, because that's the way it is. But in our near future, I'll be taking the same type of hiatuses so that I can focus on securing the remedy. All of this time, in the last 35 years, the only thing I was concerned about is how to get around the stupidity, bureaucracy, and people being trapped. Because nobody likes being caught in a trap, nobody likes being in a trap. And that's what society has been doing to us. They have been trapping us. They've been engaging in these corporate offers to contract. Now remember, Minnesota, not Minnesota, New Hampshire talked about the corporate offer to contract. They weren't making a mistake. They told exactly the truth that these corporate government officials, and they said they were corporate government, not us, not no them sovereign people out there talking that. Nobody else talking that. State government was talking it. And they talked about the corporate offer to contract. They are only doing offers. Well, as long as you announce that you've attained the age of the majority, and you put that affidavit out there attached to that birth certificate, they can't say nothing. You disaffirm all contracts. That's why the contract says and the affidavit says disaffirm all contracts. Why? Because once you disaffirm all contracts, that includes trust agreements, which means you're no longer bound to those agreements. So they can't hold you to those agreements according to the law. Well, that's what arbitration does. Oh, you want to ignore me? Oh, you don't want to hear what I have to say? Well, fine. And if you're dealing with a judge, fine, Your Honor. I'm not here to argue with you. No, I'm just going to let the arbitrator and the Arbitration Association know that I have somebody who's acting outside of the law. And then once I get the award against you for acting outside of the law, then I go and I file my complaint against you with the, pay attention, Judicial Misconduct Board. Why? Because you only maintain office while in good behavior. You cannot be in good behavior if you've agreed that you violated my rights and that you violated the law. That's what the contract says. Sorry, Your Honor. I apologize, Your Honor, but I'm tired of you, Your Honors. So you can kiss my Your Honor for all I care. That's what we're saying. We're saying enough. Now, people say, well, how do you do this and how do you do that? Ladies and gentlemen, the whole purpose was before they changed the law, you needed to have your junk together. So, enforcement of your arbitration awards. The first thing you focus on is writing a letter. You have to operate as a debt collector. Other arbitration awards, they don't do this way, but you have to let them know this is the way you're going to do. So you have to operate as a debt collector. Look at that. Now, isn't that purty? I like to be right smack in the spinner of that. That's right, it's a spinner. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you have your arbitration award. You put together your debt collection letter. Let them know this is an attempt to collect the debt. Look, arbitrator has ruled against you. The arbitrator has said that you are in violation of the agreement. I agree with the arbitrator. The arbitrator has awarded this amount. You need to pay this amount. Now we can work out payment arrangements. You do the same thing to them that they do to you. You take their letter, you copy it, and you spin the table. Spin that little chair around and say, sit down. Let me talk to you. Okay? And tell me what's on your mind. I know you've been tired, baby. Because if it wasn't, then you wouldn't be crying. Anyway, you have to do to them what they've done to you. If you've noticed, we're using unilateral contracts against them. We're using the law against them, the same laws they use against us. We're using arbitration, not against them, but in our favor. Why? Because they take and they do the same. But remember, people are not understanding. It's the organizations that they set up that's doing this. It's not the individual that's doing this. They set up these organizations years ago. So they became employed with these organizations and they followed right on in suit. But they should be held responsible for their actions. Yes, yes, yes. But go after the organization because the organization has the right to engage in contract. The government can enter into a contract with anybody. But the moment they do, please understand this, ladies and gentlemen. The moment the government enters into a contract with you that involves commerce, any type of monies, any type of what do you call that? Financial transaction? That's called, pay attention, the waiving of their sovereign immunity, and they're electing to be sued. There is no immunity when they engage in commercial business. And who is it that we're going to hold them accountable for engaging in commercial business? We've been going to the courts. Well, the courts cannot police themselves. They've already proven that over the years. I was just reading something today talking about Alexander Hamilton, talking about the courts are the weakest division of government because they have no power. They're only there to keep the checks and balances. I keep telling people the courts were never supposed to be writing law. But the court wanted to have equal power because they reasoned that if there were three branches of government, their powers should be divided equally. So if the Congress and the president had the ability of making laws, so they should have the ability of making laws. That's how they reason. Equal protection of law is where they were going. You get to reason the same way, but you don't get to reason that way without being able to support it by a avalanche of evidence. They're going to want you to bring the whole coot and kabungle to the arena. You don't just get to come up in there and sit down and talk about, all right, I'm ready to play and participate in this concert. Nope, you got to sit up there and either bring some cake, some ice cream, some cookies, and the rest of the band and the instruments and the electricity and the cleaners. You better bring your whole arsenal. So, how do we do it? Well, the first thing we did was we created the Q-Pack. That contract is eight things in one. And not just eight things. We didn't just we're gonna put eight things in here and just put eight things and we just gonna keep adding and adding, make it look like it's something nice. No, we did it based on principles of law. First, we put it in equity. How did you put it in equity? You keep talking about this equity because we made it a trust. We made it an express trust agreement. You mean an express trust agreement? That's right, express trust agreement. We created a special relationship because the court says that in express trust, there must identify the special relationship. Just look up equity and you'll see that. So we created the special relationship, highlighted the special relationship. Well, after we did that, we assigned the trustees some duties. Told the trustee exactly what the trustee is to do. We made our contract superseding all the other contracts, did the conditional acceptance the way we're supposed to do a conditional acceptance, and then we added in, because remember, we made it a trust agreement, then a contract, then an affidavit, then a power of attorney. That's four things just by themselves. Then we made it a DBA, telling them we're doing business as. Added an arbitration agreement, added a common law agreement, said it must be done in equity. That's number eight. Those are just the things off the top of my head. Then by putting in points of agreement that were supported by actual facts and law, just taking those facts and laws and turning them into questions. Prove this wrong. But then we made it a unilateral contract. See, that's number nine. What do you mean made it unilateral? Well, see, the law says that a contract, if it's unilateral, the parties must have a prior relationship, and then the other party must have an obligation to respond. Or, and the next point is that the contract can't last forever. Make it last forever, ever. Don't let our love in. Ooh. I'm sorry, my bad. Anyway, the contract can't last forever. That the parties must be identified, grantor, trustor, or then you got the beneficiary, and then you got the trustee. So it must have those three parties. The person who wrote the contract, grantor's intentions is law of the trust. The person who benefits from the contract, the beneficiary, and the person who performs or has the duty of the contract, the fiduciary, the trustee. Those are the next 3 points it must have. And then the contract must have an expiration date. Our contract has an expiration date. And it must involve a performance on one of the parts of the two parties. The parties have to give and take, so there must be value and consideration. You all know this. That's basic contract law. But here, we bring in an equity because equity must render equity. You don't have to know much about equity. You just have to know the maxims. So, ladies and gentlemen, study the maxims of equity. There are only 20 of them, 23 of them, maybe 116, 2,405 billion, quadzillion. No, they're basically, the numbers keep changing, but roughly 23 is where you'll see the limit. That's what we did with the QPAC. You see, by them not responding, the contract specifically states, because a unilateral contract requires the other party to have acted in accordance or in agreement with the contract, and somehow there has to be some type of action on their part in agreement with the contract. So the contract specifically says a failure to respond with specificity and facts and conclusions of common law will constitute your tacit acquiescence. You're agreeing to all of the terms and conditions of this instrument, all the terms and conditions of the contract. So, by the very fact that they do not respond, indicates that they have elected to take that provision and accept that provision of the contract just by not responding. So, their non action is actually an action in agreement with the contract, unilateral contract. You do the same thing. All you guys got to do is go to look at the policy changes you get from, just go to Google, type in your internet emails, type in policy. Just type that in your email address and see how many policy changes you've received from these different companies, letting you know that they're changing their policy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what you do? You do the exact same thing. You give them a conditional acceptance of their offer. They change their policies whenever they feel like it, so I'm not telling you to do the same. I'm telling you to go ahead and let them know, give them notice of change in terms and conditions. Okay? Just that simple. Because that's what I do. That's why I put void on everything. That's why I put void on every contract. You're not recontracting with me. I'm not allowing it. I don't let Google recontract. I don't let PayPal or any of these other companies recontract with me. I got a company right now that wants to be sold to a different company and wants to change the contract. And the first thing I'm saying, oh no, I like my previous contract. I'm sticking to that. I don't care what y'all do. Go have your little tea party. But I'm sticking right over here because I like the agreement I have. And I don't want to change it under no circumstances, buddy. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay, now that you got the other party committing an act under the contract, the only thing you have to do is notify them of its 10 days, which is the contract. And now, after the 10 days have expired, and they didn't ask for extension because, see, 10 days is a short time, and maybe they might need more time. That's why the contract says specifically they have to put such in writing because within 10 days, if they don't know it's going to take them longer, then and they don't notify you, that means they're not acting in good faith. So those of you who want the answers to the questions, many people are thinking that we're supposed to be explaining every aspect of the contract to them. No, we are not. But I'm taking the time to do that now and in the video earlier today. As tired as I am, I only came on here to talk about hypoxia. Why? Not apoxia, hypoxia with an H. Because of the loss of wonderful oxygen to the brain. And the episode that came on the, sorry, I keep wanting to say Blackish, but it ain't Blackish, it's Blacklist with Mr. Spader, Mr. James Spader. I like him. I've always liked him as an actor, even when he played in Boston Legal. I thought he was a little too corny in Boston Legal, but he is a sarcastic actor. And they wrote this movie, this TV series, specifically for him because of his sarcasm. That's why I like him, because he's a very sarcastic actor. And sarcasm, even the sarcasm here, sometimes it's a little vulgar because they're trying to reach, and you would think that he would have some boundaries as to what he will and will not allow them to do. But oh well. You know, I'm gonna segue because I'm about to close this video, but I just want to know. Don't answer the question. Don't send emails, texts, or anything. I just want people to see if they can pay attention. Have you guys noticed the amount of makeup they've been putting on the male actors in movies now? TV series, movies, sitcoms. It's almost like there's the lipstick, there's the eyelash, there's the eyebrow, there's the shadow. I mean, there's the blush. If you don't believe me, because many of you may not have been paying attention to it, but just take another look the next time. And I'm going to say this because it needs to be said, because there are a lot of people out there who are hoping somebody says something like this, but it's mostly the black male actors. Now, why is it that they constantly are trying to have these black male actors dress like women, dress in dresses? It doesn't make any sense. But that seems to be the thing. I know Dave Chappelle talked about it, and yes, I don't believe the clone thing, but I'm telling you that's not Dave Chappelle. It's not the same voice. I I listen to too much Dave Chappelle. Okay, that's not the same voice. He has a crackling. It's like a crack to his voice. It's unique to him, and this voice is deeper. This is not the same voice. I don't know. He ain't said to nobody he's been in no accident, but the voice is deeper and the jokes are not, the timing of the jokes is way off from who he was. I don't know what happened to him. They talked about him going away for 10 years. This has nothing to do with him going away for 10 years. Look, the people 100 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago will tell you I sound the same. My voice hasn't changed. Now, of course, when you get older, your voice tends to lose a little bit of its pitch. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this voice being completely different. Now, I haven't put his voice under no machine to make sure if it's the same person. I just know that the voice is not matching up. I know the jokes are not matching up. His jokes are not where they were before. Sorry, he's a comedian. Comedians don't lose their edge, people. If you There's a guy who would, man, he would offend every single corner on this planet if he was doing jokes today, and that's Don Rickles. If Don Rickles was still around doing jokes, man, everybody and their grandfather would be offended because he would offend you. But let me explain something about Mr. Don so that you all can understand it and you all can get it. Don Rickles was a very good comedian, okay? It's just he didn't pull no punches. He wasn't politically correct to save nobody's political career. But Mr. Don Rickles was a comedian, and no matter how old he was still a comedian, and he was just as funny the older he got. That's why everybody could rely on him. But then, they couldn't have him show up at certain events. He had to really watch himself when he was at Reagan's so-called inaugural. Had to really watch himself so that he didn't offend anybody with Mr. Webster showing up there introducing him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I just thought I'd take a little bit of time to let you all know what some people go through on this planet. If you know somebody who has had an experience of either drowning or being without oxygen for a while, and you notice that they are different, that they're not the same, that it's not that they are not happy and not content with life. They just are not so eager to take chances. That the things that other people count as experiences or things that other people count as exciting, they don't find it as exciting. They're not as thrilled about certain things as others. Don't blame them. Don't get angry at them. Don't get mad at them. Understand that it's not the same for them as it is for you. And it's just not people who've been through that, it's other people. Everybody, we see things differently, different cultures, different environments. And so I had to explain that to a supervisor earlier today. I had to tell him that the people who you're dealing with more than one person. You're dealing with more than three persons. And because of that, you have to recognize all of their personalities. I had something going for me when I was a kid. My mother would sit down and explain that to us. My father would sit down and explain that to us. Says I deal with this one this way, I deal with this one that way, I deal with that one that way. I have to deal with you guys according to your personalities. So I learned that early on. And so I'm suggesting that all of you understand that no matter how much they look the same, that experience that they've had changed them, not for the worse, but I would say for the better. I would say it allows them to focus a little more on the important things, which is what life's about. I want to show you guys something before I discontinue this particular video. Let me see. I know I installed it, but I didn't put it down there. Hold on. Come on now. This one right here. This is the Watchtower Library by the... Oh, yeah, some of you guys are running for the button trying to stop the video. Don't care. This ain't for you. This is the Watchtower Library. I just want to show you all something that occurred yesterday. And as soon as it finishes loading, tick tock, I gotta finish updating this. We're gonna go back one day. Oh, I can't show it to you. Sorry, it's called the text, the daily text. And for yesterday, it actually talked about the commercial system and how the commercial system is ran. Uh-oh, can't apply the package. I gotta download it again. Oh, look at that. I didn't know. All right, it's got 78. I guess I gotta do the pause, and now I gotta start it again. I did not know. I knew it was supposed to be downloading, but I started the computer over after I started. Well, anyway, it was talking about the commercial system and how the commercial system is, and how, as individuals, we should not be running after the commercial system. We shouldn't be trying to keep up with the so-called Joneses. We should not be going out there and stabbing ourselves all over the place just trying to get the next whatever this is that's new. I was explaining to someone yesterday that I don't have new, but not a single person on this planet has something that's new. You can't go and buy a new car because there's no such thing. Everything on that car is used. It was all created from something that already existed. There is no such thing as new. You can't have new pants, you can't have a new piece of paper because it comes from something that was already there. Nobody can create anything new except for God. That's why Judge Mahoney in the Daly versus Morgan case, you guys know it as the Credit River case, but the Daly versus Morgan case, the judge made it quite clear that no one can create something out of nothing but God when they claim that they produce this currency on their own books. They created it out of nowhere. It didn't exist before they created it, thus they created it out of thin air, which is what the courts are now referring to as vapor money. They're saying that us saying that type of stuff makes us sound crazy. Then I say we be crazy, and so do the banks, because the banks are the ones who say this is what they do. So we and they be crazy. We're in some type of company, whether good or bad. Okay, with that being said, thank you for letting me take up 34 minutes of your time. It is 12:14 in the AM. I just gotta go. Got a long days ahead of me tomorrow, and so I'm about to go make it show. Y'all take care. Have a good day. Have a good life. I'm hoping, like that cowboy, y'all have something good. Goodbye. Oh, is he making a six with his legs? Sorry. Adios.